I woke up to a stolen life. My lover of 10 years, Julian, is marrying another woman and treats me like a delusional stranger. My fiancé, Adrian, insists I am merely ill, trapping me in a truth that feels like a gilded cage. But the cracks are appearing. During a lethal mountain ambush, Julian protected me with a desperate familiarity that betrayed his cold facade. Then at the Imperial Prison, the mask slipped. I found my gentle fiancé, drenched in blood, his hands stained by the tools of torture. As the forgotten names Logan and Ethan scream in my mind, I realize the terrifying truth. My memory wasn't lost, it was murdered. And my savior is actually my jailer. Chapter 3. My heart felt like it was being carved apart. I steadied myself against the wall and stumbled out, one step at a time. The courtyard was bright beneath a thin veil of sunlight. Not far off, a guard was smiling, making polite conversation. "Lord Ethan, Lord Logan, what brings you here? On General Shen's business?" We heard the bandits were caught a few days ago. The general sent us to ask about the situation." I stared over with hollow eyes. Darkness surged up and I dropped to my knees. "Vivi." At the last second, Adrian lunged forward and caught me. Slowly, I fisted his collar. With the last shred of strength I had left, I demanded, "They were his right-hand men. How could you do this?" Adrian's face went paper white. In my memory, 2 lines appeared. Sometimes they overlapped. Sometimes they split apart. In one of them, I could see a distant, blurry future. A dead Julian Shen, for instance, and a mad Adrian Lu. The feeling of dying was stronger than anything I'd ever known. It was as if something deep in my memories was collapsing. When it finally shattered, I would die too. I lay on the ground, staring up at the sky, mouth open, fighting for air. "Just let me go?" Adrian's expression turned terrifyingly dark. His eyes were bloodshot as he snarled, "Tell Julian Shen to come, now." Someone stumbled out through the doorway. My ears rang. I couldn't hear anything. Snow began to drift down. Lying there in the snow, motionless, I suddenly laughed. That wasn't a dream. Julian Shen gave me a hairpin. There are 7 days left until the Lantern Festival. He cut Magnus Tai down beneath his horse. He won the war. Later, I became the general's wife. That year I was 26 and he was 29. How old am I now? A maid, kneeling beside me, answered in a trembling voice, "Miss, you're 24. Don't scare me." 2 years from now, Magnus Tai will die. I rambled uncontrollably, as if it were the only thing that could dull the stabbing pain in my head. "Vivi, don't think about it. It'll be fine soon. Soon." Adrian held me close. Snow gathered on his shoulders, even dusting his dark hair. Through the wind and snow came urgent hoofbeats, then the crash of a door kicked open. "Vivi!" Adrian was shoved aside. He staggered back a few steps and dropped into the snow. Julian Shen was breathing hard. He pulled me tight into his arms. In that instant, the tearing sensation inside me reached a strange balance point. I spat up a mouthful of blood. I lifted my hand to Julian's face. "General, not Julian Shen, not General Shen." But the 2 words I had called most often, standing in wind and snow, waiting for him to come home. Julian cried. Hot, heavy tears fell onto my face. Trembling, he whispered my name. "Vivi. My wife, Vivi." He kissed near my ear again and again, until my frantic heart finally began to steady. I smiled. "So you know who I am?" "I do, I've always known." "General Shen, hurry up." Adrian's voice came from the side, calm and cold. "I didn't bring you back so you could reminisce with her. If the lock is broken, replace it. Seal it tighter." For no reason, fear flooded me. I clutched Julian's sleeve as if I could grab hold of the truth itself. Julian looked at me with a tenderness that made my throat tighten. "Vivi, go to sleep." "No, I'm not sleeping. Close your eyes, it won't hurt in a bit." "Don't go." "Okay, I won't." Darkness swept over me, unstoppable. I fell asleep. I slept deeply. When I woke, the sky was bright. The snow had stopped. The wind was still. Meltwater dripped from the eaves. Drop by drop, I sat up. A maid came in. "Miss, you look much better today. You have more energy." It was rare to feel this comfortable all over. I studied her for a moment. "You're new," the maid answered. "The older sister who served you before fell ill. The master sent her to the country estate." I nodded and got out of bed. "Where's Adrian?" "The master is in the study. It isn't convenient for him to see you." I froze. "Why?" "Last night General Shen came to the Lu residence and fought with the master. Both of them ended up bruised." I frowned as I listened. "Adrian has a mild temper. How could General Shen hit someone without even asking what happened? I haven't had much contact with him, so I don't know what kind of person he is. Is he some brute? The maid lowered her head, answering evasively. Miss, you should go see the master. When I carried a bowl of goat's milk into the study and saw Adrian Liu, I couldn't help laughing. I've known you for years. This is the first time I've ever seen you lose. Adrian had a dark bruise around one eye. When he saw me, he covered half his face, his ears turning red. Vivi, that temper of yours. He sighed, sounding more amused than anything. You're not a child anymore. I set the goat's milk in front of him and pushed aside the book blocking his view. All right, I won't laugh. Bruises heal faster if you rub them. He watched as I lowered my head and carefully peeled an egg. He lifted the bowl, blew on the goat's milk, and drank slowly. His gaze never left me. How could I not notice? I shot him a look. What is it with you today? Why are you staring at me like that? Adrian smiled. Nothing. It's just, I haven't seen you like this in a long time. I wrapped the egg in gauze and pressed it to his eye. I just got sick and bumped my head. You took care of me for a while. What's so strange about that? Now you're complaining, so everything I did for you before was for nothing. Vivi, what? While you were sick, how much do you remember? As I massaged around his eye, I searched my memory. Luna's wedding. I fought with my parents. Oh, and on Pinecone Mountain we ran into bandits and someone helped us. Really unlucky. Then I suddenly fixed on his handsome face, serious. Did you ever thank the person who saved my life? Adrian blinked. Of course. That's good. I paused, pressing a hand to my head, confused. What was his name again? A kind of joy I couldn't understand slowly spread through Adrian's eyes. He gently took my hand and placed it over his bruised eye. It doesn't matter, Vivi. Keep going. Adrian pulled me onto his lap. We sat like that for a long time, and he didn't say a word. Bored, I propped my chin in my hand and flipped through a storybook while he focused on official papers. Every so often, his hair brushed my neck. It tickled. The faint scent of him made my eyelids grow heavy. The instant I closed my eyes, a maid's shrill screams and the sound of retching in a prison flashed through my mind like lightning. I jolted, snapping awake. Adrian caught me as I nearly slid off his lap, his whole body tight with worry. What's wrong? I realized I was drenched in cold sweat. I couldn't remember what I'd just dreamed. I looked at Adrian blankly. I think I had a nightmare. Maybe this position isn't comfortable. Adrian stared into my eyes for a long moment, then soothed me, stroking my back. Outside, someone reported, Master, news from the palace. Magnus Tai has started a war at the frontier city. General Shen will head north soon. When? Adrian asked. In 10 days. My heart jolted. Before my mind could fully catch up, Adrian suddenly pulled me into his arms, his voice gentle. Vivi, let's get married. Huh? I stared at him. Shouldn't you deal with your work first? Marry me, all right? 10 days from now I'll marry you. His grip made me uncomfortable. Isn't that too rushed? I've been preparing for 10 years, Vivi. I don't want to wait any longer. He talked me into it. I'd known him for 10 years. It felt as though everything had simply fallen into place. Okay. Adrian's breathing went uneven. He leaned in to kiss me, but I suddenly broke free, flushed, and ran. The news of the marriage alliance between the Bai family and the Liu Manor spread through capital city the next day. Mother's illness worsened again. When I went back, she lay inside, gaunt and withered. Sometimes she recognized people, but more often she didn't. Father said, while your mother is still here, hurry up and get the wedding done. We can't drag it out. I moved back to Bai Manor and devoted myself to caring for Mother. Every day after court, Adrian would come to see me under the excuse of visiting Father. That day, when he arrived, I was rummaging through trunks and boxes. The moment Adrian stepped in, I wiped the sweat from my brow and asked, Do you still have anything for removing scars? What happened? I pushed up my sleeve and showed him the scar on my wrist. Mother doesn't like it. I want it gone, but they insisted. I threw a tantrum and tossed everything out. Theo Liu, go get the ointment, Adrian said. Then he pulled me close and held me tight. Stop looking, I'll give it to you. I lifted my wrist, studying it. When did I even get this? I don't remember at all. When you fell off the mountain. I'm not the type to lose my temper. You were in bed all day. After a while anyone would get irritable. But you're better now, aren't you? Adrian always had the patience to smooth things over. I tugged his hand and pulled him closer to the brazier to warm it. They said I almost ruined Luna's wedding. Another day I'll apologize to her in person. Vivi, you already apologized. Adrian cupped my chin, tipping it up so I had to meet his eyes. Don't think about anything, just marry me. Something in his mood felt restrained. His fingers pinched my jaw hard enough to hurt. He leaned down and his clean, sharp scent wrapped around me. I knew what he wanted. My body went stiff. With every inch his lips drew closer, I trembled harder. Something that should have come naturally felt unbearably difficult. This isn't proper. I suddenly pulled back, forcing distance, bracing my hands against Adrian's chest to push him away. Mother is bedridden, and Adrian's breathing was ragged. He closed his eyes, then let go. I'm sorry, Vivi, I overstepped. In a few days, after we're married, I'll do what you want. I bit my lip and didn't dare look at him. I couldn't even name what I was feeling. Okay. Adrian stood, wrapped himself in his cloak, and looked a little too thin, as if he'd lost more weight. When he opened the door, cold wind howled in. I'll come tomorrow. The next day, Father replaced all the old servants who had been with the Bai family for years. He also brought in new things for me. While I was tidying my room, I found a notebook. When I opened it, I saw my own handwriting. That night, when no one was around, I read it. The more I read, the duller it felt. I'd written it while I was sick. My mind foggy, the writing messy. I'd even invented a general Shen and started writing as if it were a storybook. It was nothing but scattered fragments, jotted down half asleep. A maid brought in tea. I told her, go to my storeroom and find some jewelry to send to Luna. I didn't need to worry about Adrian, but as her sister-in-law, I couldn't do nothing. The new young maid looked blank. Miss, where should I send it? Right? They were all new. They didn't know Luna Lu. I said, send it to the general's residence. Which general's residence? She stopped me cold. In the mirror, my expression slowly turned bewildered. That's right, which general's residence? My sister-in-law had married out. Who had she married? Before long, sweat broke out on my forehead. The maid panicked, pulling out a handkerchief to dab at me. Miss, it's nothing important. I'll send someone to ask. I leaned over the desk, my gaze landing on a hairpin. A sharp pain shot through my wrist. My wrist hadn't been cut by rocks. It had been cut by the hairpin. The first time they served me, they'd been terrified of neglecting me. Soon they came back with news. Miss, it's General Shen's residence. Restless, I frowned. Which General Shen? Everyone in Capital City knows, she said. General Shen. Julian Shen. A wave of panic swept through me. Something was wrong. Everyone knew him. Why didn't I remember? Or rather, why couldn't I hold on to his name at all? My eyes drifted to the notebook. I stared blankly at the name Julian Shen, but my thoughts refused to come together. Miss, you should rest early. You don't look well. When you read storybooks, can you remember the names? I asked. They exchanged glances and nodded. My face went even paler. Something was wrong with me. Looking back over the past few months, my mind felt hollow. I forced myself to sort it into a clear line. I was the Bai family's only daughter. Mother's body had been damaged giving birth to me, and she could never have another child. Father wanted a concubine. Mother fought him with everything she had. And because my maternal family was a powerful noble clan, Father couldn't win, so he had to give up. So the responsibility of reviving the Bai family fell on me. Find a good husband was drilled into me until my ears ached. If I didn't satisfy my parents, I would be beaten. When I was 14, I stopped a horse in the street and met Adrian Liu. Father said it was an opportunity. He forced me to stop Adrian again and again. That was how Adrian came to know me. He looked after me in countless ways. The two families naturally arranged an engagement. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye. By rights, I should have married him long ago. But Father insisted on waiting until Adrian climbed higher in rank, amassed more wealth, and could afford a richer bride price. Back and forth, my age crept up. In Capital City, the only man willing to marry me was Adrian. Father grew more and more unhinged, afraid Adrian would lose interest. Again and again, he used excuses to push me into living at Lu Manor. Later, when we went back to our hometown to honor our ancestors, I fell off a cliff. When I woke, why had my memories become so blurred? Luna got married, and I caused a scene at her wedding. Why? over something as ridiculous as fighting her for a bowl of horseshoe soup. On Pinecone Mountain, we'd been in danger. Yet, I couldn't recall the face of the person who saved my life. I'd spent several days with him. I couldn't remember a single word we'd said, a single thing we'd done. I grabbed the maid's hand. Go ask, who saved me on Pinecone Mountain? After they left, I frantically flipped through the notebook. When I strung all the stories together, another line emerged. Absurd as it was, in that line, the person I met at 14 was Julian Shen. The person I married was also Julian Shen. And 2 years later, Magnus Tai died in battle, Julian Shen was made a marquis, and I became a marchioness. I'd written all of it after waking from the fall. Whatever I dreamed, I wrote down. The handwriting was rough and chaotic. The scar on my wrist, the scene I caused at Luna's wedding. It was all because I'd believed absolutely that I was Julian Shen's wife. The maid rushed back in. Miss, the one who saved you was General Shen. Again, Julian Shen. I hugged my knees and lowered my head. For a long time I didn't speak. Adrian, a pair of black brocade boots stopped in front of me. A shadow fell, blocking my view. He bent down, his long, pale hand picked up the notebook from the floor. Vivi, Julian Shen used a goo on you. During that time, you were in a lot of pain. I didn't want to tell you. Slowly, I leaned into Adrian. I know. I never knew Julian Shen. It makes no sense that I'd wake up and chase after him like I was possessed. Adrian stroked my hair. Then he tossed the notebook into the brazier. I watched it vanish into flame and crumble into ash. What does he want? I asked. To bring down the Liu family. Adrian crouched in front of me, his eyes gentle. It's fine. Luna is watching him. You won't be in danger. Luna? So she married into his household too. Vivi, Luna and I have suffered a lot, so we'll pay any price to protect what we've gained. Adrian smiled softly. For Luna, as long as I'm alive, I'm her greatest support. Luna Liu had married into the general's residence to keep Julian Shen under watch. I was shaken by Adrian's careful plotting, his control. Only then did I truly glimpse the face beneath his gentle mask. His voice dropped to a whisper near my ear. Vivi, don't be afraid of me. You're my wife. I'll protect you with my life. In this cannibalistic imperial capital, if you didn't hide your face beneath layers of disguise, how could you survive? Adrian wasn't wrong. 10 days passed in a blur. Tonight, Bai Manor blazed with lanterns and decorations. The wedding dress sent from Liu residence was exquisite. Eastern pearls covered the cuffs and the front, glittering brilliantly in the candlelight. Miss, tonight I'll sleep by your bed. Rest a little. Tomorrow is the wedding. You'll have a long day. The room was warm, but I felt no joy at all. After the third watch, I threw on a light outer robe. I'm going for a walk. There had been heavy snow this year. It had piled up for half a month and still hadn't fully melted. Another snowfall came last night. My feet crunched as I stepped through it. As I passed a stretch of wall, I heard messy hoofbeats outside. Faint voices carried through. At this hour, whose servants are still out? A maid answered. General Shen is leaving the city. He's going to the frontier city to fight. Through the wall, someone spoke. General Shen, when will you return in triumph? Next spring. There's someone in the capital I can't stop thinking about. I dare not prolong the war. Clack. The hand warmer slipped from my fingers and fell into the snow. Memories surged back like a tide. When are you coming back? Next spring. There's someone in the capital I can't stop thinking about. I dare not prolong the war. Who are you thinking about? Vivian Bai. When I return, I'll marry you. Miss, you dropped the hand warmer. Let's go back. After a dazed beat, I answered, Okay, let's go back. Then a violent pain ripped through my forehead and I collapsed into the snow. A piercing ringing filled my ears. My mind spun into chaos. One moment I was kneeling before someone. Behind me, a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Someone still wasn't quite dead. Vivi, I can give you a chance to start over. But this time, you have to choose me. Fine, let them live. I'll do anything. Then I was back in the snow, watching goose feather flakes drift down. My wife, Vivi. So you know who I am. General Shen, hurry up. I didn't bring you back so you could reminisce with her. If the lock is broken, replace it. Seal it tighter. Vivi, go to sleep. Close your eyes. It won't hurt in a bit. Don't go. Okay, I won't. A moment later, I kicked open the stable door. A maid stumbled after me, calling anxiously, Ancestor, where are you going? The groom jumped in fright. When he saw it was me, he stumbled out with his clothes half thrown on. "Miss, why are you in a place like this?" I grabbed the reins and hauled out a sturdy horse. "Open the back gate." "Miss," I snapped, "open the back gate." The moment my fingers closed around the reins, I understood everything. Vivian Bai had never learned to ride, yet the rough, familiar feel of leather woke something in my soul. That ferocity didn't belong to the soft, gentle streets of the imperial capital. It was born only in the bone-cutting wind and frost of the northern frontier. I belonged there. Even if I lived it all again, I wouldn't change. I swung up onto the horse's back. It whinnied, impatient, pawing at the slushy snow. "You can't live your life in a fog. Whatever the truth is, I have to get to the bottom of it. That's better for both Adrian and me." "The snow in Capital City is shallow. Let's go north," I whispered into the horse's ear. As if it understood, it reared and screamed, carrying me into the night. On the broad streets of the capital, a clean line of hoofprints remained. The horse was spirited. When it ran, it tore through the wind, whipping my hair into a mess. Faster. Before the city gates closed, I saw a dark, dense formation of troops. Who goes out of the city? Someone called from afar. I reined in. "Vivian Bai of Bai Manor, here to see General Shen off." Dawn was thin and pale. The cold wind hadn't eased. I wore a bright red wedding dress and waited for the first light. At daybreak, the world was washed in gold. Someone rode toward me at a measured pace. His expression was tight, anger held in check. Morning light cut along his profile, drawing a sharp line between brightness and shadow. Breathing lightly, I asked, "The one you can't stop thinking about in the capital. Who is it?" In that instant, even the wind and snow seemed to still. He didn't answer. I edged closer. "Next spring, who will you return for?" Still nothing. Under countless watching eyes, I dismounted. Holding the reins, I looked up at him. The one who taught me to ride. Who was it? My wrist tightened. Like an autumn leaf, I landed lightly on his saddle. Julian Shen drew me in, turning me to face him in his arms. Cold, sharp frost scent wrapped around me. His armor was hard and icy, yet it couldn't stop the heat in my chest. Julian stared at me. The silence in his eyes cracked, inch by inch. As if to vent his fury, he dug his fingers into my waist. "Who allowed you to come?" I did. He was forcing his temper down so hard that veins stood out at his temple. "Vivian Bai, you're unbearable." "If I'm unbearable, then, General Shen, whip me to death, end it." Julian teetered on the edge of fury. I could feel that if so many eyes weren't on us, he would have tied me up and beaten me senseless. "Did General Shen put a goo on me?" His face turned cold. "No." "Then how do you explain it? I chased you desperately before, and now I can't even remember what you look like." "You don't need to remember. Go back and get married. I'll hold the northern frontier. For 100 years, as long as I live, the imperial capital will be safe." The last trace of my smile vanished. "I'll ask you one last time. What are we to each other? Think before you answer. Once you say it, you can't take it back. If we're strangers, I'll stop." In Julian's eyes, darkness thickened. The wolf in him was rising, straining against its chains. "Someone is forcing you, aren't they?" I asked softly. I pressed my hand to his left chest, over his heartbeat. The hard, steady pounding beneath my palm told me he was alive, strongly alive. "What's your weakness?" He suddenly lowered his head and bit my lip hard, rough, savage, leaving a mark. Wolves were creatures that claimed their territory. Once the chains broke, no one could stand against them. It hurt, and it was exhilarating. Shaking, I felt the rush of blood at my ear, the beat of his heart, and the tenderness spreading between our lips and teeth. As if we'd done this countless times before. In that moment, we both found where we belonged. Julian's hand locked around my neck. He spoke each word clearly. "Vivian Bai, are you afraid to die?" In his eyes was the madness of a final gamble, and a heat that nearly swallowed me whole. This was him. "I'm not afraid. Even if the road ahead is already set? Even if it's set, I'm not afraid." Julian suddenly laughed. At that moment, the light of dawn reflected in his eyes, driving away the dead gray gloom. He turned his horse and called out, "Vivi, the plum blossoms are blooming in the frontier city. I'll take you to see them." As the horse surged through the city gate, someone stood atop the wall, shouting urgently after me. I looked back. It was Adrian Liu. He wore red robes. His hair wasn't even tied up yet. I couldn't read his expression. "Vivi, today's our wedding. Do you remember that?" "Adrian, What you snatch away will never truly be yours. Vivian, bye. Don't be stubborn. Adrian's voice was cold and splintered. Come back. I won't hold it against you. Your parents are still alive. Where do you think you're going? I tightened my grip on Julian Shen's hand and met his eyes. Young Master Lu, back then, the people who stopped your horse 3 times and shoved me were my parents. Whatever I owed them for raising me was ground to dust with that shove. Now, no one can trap me. The figure on the city wall, shrinking into the distance, became my last impression of Adrian Lu. Julian Shen pulled me into his arms and lifted a hand to shield me from the cutting wind. The horse's hooves struck the open wilds with crisp, ringing beats. Vivi, look ahead. 10 days later, riding hard, we reached Frontier City. After winter set in, the cold there was brutal. When you spoke, white breath spilled from your mouth. The streets were busy with people coming and going. We passed a steamed bun stall. The woman vendor said something to me. Julian Shen hesitated, then answered her. The accent here is different from capital city. If you've just arrived, you might not understand. I've had Logan follow you. If anything comes up, you can have him handle it. I rode beside him, avoiding his gaze. Where the wind couldn't reach, my face quietly flushed red. I understood perfectly. The woman had asked, Sir, would you like to buy a few buns for your wife? Julian Shen had replied, Any with a sweet filling? No. My wife is still young. She likes sweet things. Forget it. What did you just say to her? I asked. Julian Shen slowed his horse, calm as ever. Nothing. Oh, but I'm hungry. He stopped in front of an estate house and dismounted. There's no cook here. Tell me what you want, and I'll make it. Then, sweet buns. In the dim little kitchen, the stove fire flared. Warmth rose in waves. It was the ordinary life I'd longed for. I squatted by the firewood and watched Julian Shen's broad frame in a robe that didn't quite fit. His strong fingers kneaded the dough with practiced ease. He tucked the sugar mixed with flour into the wrapper, pinched neat pleats, and shaped a beautiful sweet bun. You're pretty good at this. If there's someone to eat it, you learn. Julian Shen lowered his eyes and arranged the buns in the steamer. Did you finish picking the vegetables? I snapped back to myself and handed them over. Done. He took them and pushed me out the door. It's smoky. Go wait outside. I was bundled up, and it wasn't cold even sitting out there, so I sat on the steps and looked at the moon. That year I was 24. Those bleak, blurry endings in my dreams, I didn't know if they were a future I could foresee or a past that had already happened. But Vivian Bai wasn't the kind of person who hid in a corner just because she was afraid. Even if she ended up bloodied, she would still walk the road she chose. Capital City had nothing for me, a world with no end in sight, a fate already arranged. A life meant to be kept like livestock, an ending with no certainty of blessing or disaster. At least in Frontier City I could find myself again. Miss Bai. Someone called to me. It was Logan. He held something in his arms and stood there, hesitant. I brushed the dirt from my hands and stood. Are you looking for the general? I'll go call him. He pulled out a thick stack of letters. These came from Capital City, family letters. My expression stiffened. From Luna Lu? Yes. We'd been rushing on the road. I still hadn't had the chance to sit down and talk things through with Julian Shen. Now that the general has you by his side, these things should be left to you to deal with. No need. I stepped aside. Either way, you should give them to him yourself. Where am I sleeping tonight? Logan pointed toward a row of buildings in the distance. For now, only that room. I pushed the door open and went in. It was cold and bare, simply furnished. By moonlight, I lit the brazier. I took off my cloak and folded it neatly to the side. The window was cracked open just enough to let out the dust that had built up, but not enough to make the room too cold. I lit a small lamp, drew my legs up on the narrow couch, and stared out the window in a daze. I didn't know how long it was before the door creaked open. A rich aroma drifted in. Julian Shen carried in a tray himself, steaming sweet buns, a few small dishes, and a pot of wine. We faced each other in silence. I helped set out bowls and chopsticks. Julian Shen suddenly asked, Are you angry? Not really. Since Luna Lu entered the general's residence, she's been sending messages out. People in the estate treated her like a thief. I never touched her. I lowered my eyes. I'm not angry. It's not about that. Vivi, when you're angry, you don't like looking at people. There was laughter in his voice. I snorted, kept my head down, and focused on eating. When I didn't respond, Julian Shen asked, "Then is it something else?" "Things from a few months ago. I forgot some of it. Does it have anything to do with you?" The smile slowly faded from Julian Shen's face. His gaze dropped to his bowl. "He picked some food for me." "Vivi, we'll talk about that later. If I remember, I'll die, right?" Julian Shen didn't answer directly. He sidestepped it. "You don't have to force yourself to remember. Whatever you like, I'll go along with it." He paused. "Stay as long as you want, even if you don't marry me." I stared at him for a long time, then smiled faintly. "Okay." After the meal, Julian Shen put his clothes back on. "Rest early." The war on the border was tense. Magnus ties sometimes struck with hit-and-run raids. They weren't large attacks, but they kept the soldiers on edge. Julian Shen had to keep watch. Before he left, Julian Shen looked at me deeply. "I'm not coming back tonight. The bed is yours." Only after he was gone did I realize this room was his, and so was the bed. I laughed softly, washed up quickly, and slipped into Julian Shen's blankets without changing. Chapter 4. It was my first time sleeping in a place like this, yet it was unexpectedly peaceful. Sleep swept over me. At dawn, I heard someone knock. Still half asleep, I rolled over toward the wall. I heard the door open and close. Footsteps came in, took a few steps, then stopped. My mind cleared. This was Frontier City. I had taken Julian Shen's room. I jumped up in a rush and saw a shadow behind the screen. Someone sitting there. "Awake?" he asked from behind the screen. "You didn't sleep all night." Julian Shen answered lazily, exhaustion hard to hide. I walked out. He wore black, his dark hair tied high at the back of his head. His features were striking, and his eyes were softer than usual. "Let me sleep." The wariness on his face was too obvious. He rose, brushed past me, and walked inside without looking back. I hesitated. "I just got up. I haven't." "No need to fold it. It's warm, saves trouble." I watched Julian Shen take off his boots, remove his outer robe, and wrap himself in the bedding. I opened my mouth, then didn't dare say anything. Frontier City was a harsh, cold place. Soldiers had it hard enough. Who would bother with such details? Then Julian Shen opened his eyes and asked, "You're not leaving? Together?" My face went bright red. I whirled around, furious. Here I was making excuses for him, and he was flirting. To the sound of Julian Shen's laughter, I fled and was caught at the courtyard gate. "Master, this is Miss Bai." Beside Logan stood a monk. Both of them looked at me. The monk pressed his palms together. "Amitabha. This humble monk, Master Dao, greets Miss Bai." His beard was white with age. He looked to be well into his later years, yet his eyes were sharp and lively. I stopped and replied politely, "Master Dao, the general just lay down to rest. I'm here to see you." I pointed at myself in surprise. "Me?" The general specifically instructed it. "Miss Bai is weak. Master Dao is skilled in medicine. He's here to examine you." I didn't expect him to find anything. Master Dao said little, then went to see Julian Shen alone. After that, every night before bed there was an extra bowl of medicinal soup. Not only did I drink it, Julian Shen did too. A few days later, passing the small kitchen, I heard the servants whispering. "Once Miss Bai's health is better, she'll be able to give the general a big, chubby son." That evening, I ran into Julian Shen in the small kitchen. He wore armor and had just returned from the battlefield. Moonlight lay over him, and blood streaked his face. "Already eaten?" I held a bowl of medicine and was pinned in the doorway by him. Flustered, I nodded. "Yes? You?" Julian Shen wiped away the blood, revealing his sharp, handsome face. He smiled at me. "Not yet. Eat a little with me?" "Oh, okay." I stared at the medicinal soup. It was so bitter. A few days ago, I'd suddenly had a nosebleed, and even in my dreams, it was all Julian Shen. "Why are you blushing?" Julian Shen lowered his head and studied me closely. "You've been nicer to me lately. Your temper's improved." I forced a smile. "So General Shen has certain preferences." "I do. The harsher you are to me, the happier I am." He sliced scallions into fine threads, poured hot oil over them, and reminded me, "The medicine's cold. Drink it." I asked what I'd been wondering for a long time. "What is this for?" "To strengthen the body." Of course, he wanted something else. Maybe he was injured and too embarrassed to say it. Maybe he used me as an excuse to recover, and took a portion for himself along the way. When Julian Shen turned back, I'd already lined up both bowls neatly in front of him. "All yours. Take your time." He looked confused. "I get it. People hide illness and avoid doctors, but don't delay treatment. Julian Shen's expression shifted slowly, dangerously. What illness do I have? How would I know? Hidden problems could come from many causes: injuries, internal issues, all sorts of things. Julian Shen set the bowl down. His hands reached over, bracketing me against the counter as he leaned in. Vivi, whatever you're thinking is written all over your face. Want me to show you? I didn't say anything. But you thought it. And you thought plenty. Julian Shen lowered his head and lightly bit at my ear. So worried about your man? I shuddered. He caught my wrist at once. Don't spill the medicine. You still have to drink it. I'm not sick. I'm not playing along with you. Lately, I developed a bad habit of overthinking. It had to be from drinking medicine. I'll feed you. Julian Shen took a sip, pinched my chin, and pressed his lips to mine. Just as I tried to pull away, he held the back of my head and poured it into my mouth. He didn't give me a second to breathe. He just kept forcing it in. I was so angry I hit him. Julian Shen pinned my wrists to the counter, and then it changed. The medicine was gone. All that remained was tangled, lingering heat. I slumped on the counter, my waist weak. The air was thick with restless warmth, trapped in the small kitchen with nowhere to go. Vivi, I want. Okay. Julian Shen froze. I want to eat. Ignoring the way my face slowly burned, I said okay? Didn't you hear me? Julian Shen still wouldn't let me go. You can't be. Aren't you hungry? If you have time to worry about what I said, hurry up and eat. Julian Shen chuckled softly. I hit him again. Stop laughing. I can eat something else too. Julian Shen didn't even sound out of breath. Eating people is better than eating food. Get lost. I couldn't take such blunt filth. Julian Shen scooped me up. Come on, we'll get under the covers and eat slowly. You bastard. Shameless. He carried me into the room and tossed me onto the bed, then started stripping off his clothes. When he was down to his inner robe, I began to feel the heat radiating off him. Hard, powerful, full of force. I didn't understand Julian Shen. In the dead of winter, he could down a bucket of cold water. He trained soldiers bare-chested in the yard year-round. I wasn't unfamiliar with those firm, clean lines of muscle. But tonight, in the dark, something was different. He left me with one sentence. Stay put, I'm going to bathe. Thinking of the icy water he always used, I started shivering just from the idea. A while later, he returned. He was even hotter, even his hair gave off steam. For once, he'd used hot water. Julian Shen held me close. His scorching body made me restless and flustered. Are you going? I already washed. Hey, what are you doing? I panicked as I sensed the change in him. Julian Shen's eyes were dark and burning. Sorry, I can't control it. One sentence from you and it's stirred up. What do you want me to do? At a loss, I asked, if you can't control it, who can? You, of course. Julian Shen guided my hand to his belt. From head to toe, you get to control it. Do whatever you want. I don't know how. Then I'll teach you. He smiled. Before, when you got excited, you wouldn't let me do whatever I wanted. I knew what he meant. Those times. I couldn't remember them. The air filled with intimacy, broken now and then by low, ragged breaths and teasing words. Julian Shen traced and coaxed, slow and precise. Vivi, look, your body still remembers. I clung uselessly to his arm. My skin was rubbed red in places. In a few flashes, it felt as if something overlapped with memory. Julian Shen, don't move. I'm tying you up. Sure, wife. Do you need me to teach you how to tie me? Don't laugh. You'll be the one crying later. I copied what I'd done before. Now Julian Shen lay tied to the bed, eyes full of laughter. Wife, keep going. I'm waiting to cry. In the end, I was the one who cried. Julian Shen's tone was unhurried, almost amused. Why are you the one crying first? Bastard. Gentler. I gritted my teeth against his shoulder. Where do you get so much strength? Ah. With you, I naturally have strength everywhere. He teased into my ear. I was in a hurry this time. Next time, I'll teach you how to tie someone up until they can't move. There won't be a next time. Stop. How could there not be? Julian Shen kissed me, murmuring, I'm not full yet. The night grew deeper. Wave after wave of desire rose and fell, and the sealed memories, like spring buds drinking dew, finally broke through the earth. An old dream, I stood on the barren ground of Frontier City, searching for Julian Shen among piles of corpses. I tried to go forward, but someone grabbed me. Adrian Liu said softly, Vivi, Frontier City has fallen. Come back with me. Where is Julian Shen? Adrian Lu said. He's waiting for reinforcements. We've lost Frontier City. We can't lose another. I'm waiting for him. Adrian Lu wouldn't listen. He dragged me back. We argued. At the fiercest moment, Adrian Lu shouted, "The reinforcements aren't coming." In that instant, my blood turned to ice. What do you mean? Adrian Lu exhaled slowly. Julian Shen, his merits threaten the throne. He won't be allowed to live. What did the people of Frontier City do wrong? I trembled with rage, struggling with all my strength. If you want to kill him, take him back to Capital City. Why make tens of thousands of civilians die with him? Vivi, come with me. From now on, Lu residence will be. I married Julian Shen. Frontier City is my home. I wrenched myself free. I'm not going anywhere. You want to help them? You want Julian Shen dead? Then I'll stay with him. Adrian Lu's gaze darkened. If it weren't for you, why would I come here? Don't let my efforts go to waste. Prime Minister, you're something else, coveting the general's wife. I sneered. You even risk your life to come to a war zone. Aren't the noble ladies in Capital City enough for you? Forcing a married woman. Adrian Lu pressed a hand to the back of my head and forced me into his arms. So what if I force you? That one meal you gave me back then, I never forgot it. Without you, I'd have frozen to death and become bones by the roadside. Letting you marry him was my mistake. Now the Emperor wants him dead. I'm carrying out an order. That's not vile. Dying for love? Don't even think about it. Shameless. Adrian Lu kissed me hard, crazed. I planned for years. Why can't I get what I want? I cried until my voice broke. Let go of me. It's fine if you don't love me. I'll lock you up. I slapped Adrian Lu. A red handprint bloomed on his pale cheek. It was like the slap woke him. His eyes were red-rimmed, his breathing ragged. I thought he was about to kill me. Instead, Adrian Lu released me, turned away, and ordered, "Watch her. We leave for Capital City tomorrow." That night, Julian Shen was hit by several arrows. I nearly died just to see him once. His eyes were wide open. When he saw me, his fingers twitched. All around us, people were crying, his veteran subordinates of many years. He lay on the ground. Many arrows had snapped. I covered my mouth, but couldn't stop the hot tears spilling out. I threw myself down beside him. "Vivi?" His voice was so low I had to lean close to hear. He told me to return to Capital City. I wiped at my tears wildly and held his hand. "I'm not going back. I'll stay with you in Frontier City. I'm not going anywhere." He said I was stubborn. He said I was carrying a child and couldn't be willful. He also said that if I went back obediently, the people would be saved. So he knew everything. "Vivi, be good. I'll sleep here forever, guarding Frontier City. Don't worry, don't worry." When the reinforcements arrived, the beacon tower lit. The army we'd waited for all winter would keep coming when spring came, but Julian Shen would never see his spring again. He died. He died in my arms. Even at the end, he didn't dare grip my hand. He was afraid he'd never be able to let go. I didn't shed a single tear. I only cut off a lock of his hair in secret. After that, I never spoke again. I don't remember when Julian Shen was buried. I don't remember how I returned to Capital City. A few months passed. Outside the window, peach blossoms filled the branches. Spring was dazzling. Logan and Ethan were escorted back to Capital City for trial. That day I carried pastries to the Imperial Prison Bureau. In the dark cells I saw 2 blood-soaked corpses. My maid fainted on the spot. Adrian Lu held me tightly and covered my eyes. I smiled. "I brought you something to eat." It was the first time I spoke after returning. Adrian Lu was overjoyed, his eyes reddening. "Okay, I'll eat." That day, Theo Lu was nearly beaten to death. He forced himself into the room and knocked the pastries to the floor when Adrian Lu had already eaten half a piece, fed to him by my own hand. Theo Lu coughed up blood. He thrust a silver needle into the pastry and found it was highly poisonous. "Master, spit it out. Spit it out." Adrian Lu swallowed slowly and looked at me. "Vivi, if you don't want to live, then I don't want to live either." I reached for the remaining half, but Adrian Lu grabbed me hard. "You're carrying a child." I smiled. "Don't you have a way to start over? I heard what you said to Master Dao. Young Master Lu, you're dying now. Why not try that method? A dead horse gets treated like a living one." Adrian Lu's face turned paper white. The poison took hold, his organs collapsing. He leaned back in the chair, eyes closed. "I can give you a chance to start over. But Vivi, this time, you can only choose me. If you won't agree, we'll die together." "I agree. Just Don't touch them. Then don't go back on your word. Adrian Lu's eyes slowly brightened. For the first time in many years, he smiled from the heart. Everything returned to our childhood. This time, I saw the cause and effect clearly. In capital city's heavy snow, I, still a child, again saved a boy by the roadside and gave him a flatbread. That boy later became Adrian Lu. When I was 14, I stopped a horse in the street. The rider was no longer Julian Shen. It was Adrian Lu. After that, Julian Shen's shadow was erased from my life, and Adrian Lu replaced everything. The 3 times I stopped the horse and we fell for each other. The birthday gift, flying kites, every turning point, every small detail. He copied Julian Shen perfectly, down to the smallest fraction. In my limited youth, Julian Shen existed only in rumors. His first victory, his promotion to general, his injury, his serious illness. To me, it was only news about a stranger. Until I returned home to honor my ancestors, and the carriage fell off a cliff. The shackles buried deep in memory loosened. The memories of my past life met this one. I fell into an illusion. After I woke, I barged into the general's residence for the first time and became entangled with Julian Shen of this life. They called me crazy. They weren't wrong. In this life, I truly didn't know Julian Shen. But he knew me. The day he saw me, a branch hooked his sleeve and tore it. He turned and laughed with someone else as if nothing had happened. I'd just woken up and didn't understand his temperament. With Julian Shen's skill, how could he be clumsy enough to tear his own sleeve? Once the shackles loosened, they could only collapse day by day. I began dreaming of him. Dreaming of the past. Then my body worsened by the day. Fragments of memory stitched together inch by inch. My energy faded. My emotions grew unstable. I began hurting myself, seeking death, growing more and more obsessive. Julian Shen didn't dare acknowledge me. If the shackles shattered, what would happen to the person bearing all of it? The corpse in the prison gave me the sharpest shock of all. The collapse came in an instant. That night, my life hung by a thread. Julian Shen broke through the snow and came to me. So I was bound to him. Only he could hold me down. Only he could make me forget everything. We were like magnets, always drawn to each other. Yet once we snapped together, we crashed until we were both ruined. That was where Adrian Lu won. As long as Julian Shen didn't want me harmed, he had to stay far away. He couldn't say a single word, do a single thing, give even a single look. My life became Julian Shen's heaviest shackle. I couldn't imagine how many things Adrian Lu forced Julian Shen to do with it. Marrying Luna Lu, did that count? When I held a blade to my throat and Julian Shen could only watch, did that count? Outside the prison, Julian Shen personally sealed my memories again, erased his own existence. Did that count? In winter, with supplies hard to move, Julian Shen leaving for Frontier City on my wedding day. Did that count? This life, Vivi, it's morning. Curled in Julian Shen's arms, exhausted to the bone, I still didn't want to close my eyes and sleep. I remember everything. Julian Shen kissed me lightly, lingering and tender. You've taken a lot of medicine. You were bound to remember. From now on, my Vivi won't be tied to me anymore. I remembered the year when rumors spread in capital city that General Shen was injured. I was ill for months before I slowly recovered. So, we truly shared fortune and disaster. It was only half a month. Julian Shen's kisses turned into soft, scattered pecks. More than that. Don't tell me it started even earlier? Adrian Lu couldn't restore your health. I couldn't stand it. I let out a small laugh, and tears slid down. Julian Shen said, Master Dao's spell was meant to send you and Adrian Lu back. But we had a child. That blood tie dragged me back too. That's why I've remembered you since we were very young. Even earlier than our past life. Do you know why Adrian Lu took you riding and you cried from fear? Julian Shen tightened his arms around my waist. With the girl you like, you can't be too reserved. You hold her like this. I watched from far away. You were crying so hard, and I cursed Adrian Lu 100 times over. Julian Shen seemed determined to pour out all his resentment at once. Who would like paper cranes? Once my girl got used to riding, I would take her to the outskirts. We'd race through the woods. The wind would lift her hair and tangle it with mine. Then, on the mountaintop, I'd kiss her hard. Then she'd tear up and slap me, call me a bastard, and secretly curl her lips. She'd make me carry her down the mountain. During the Lantern Festival, I'd pull her along. Whatever she set her eyes on, I'd make her win it back for me. She'd blush and curse me for being a crude brute. I listened quietly to him talk about our past. After a long while, I answered, "Then why didn't you mention the half-month you ran off to the north? You only told others there was someone you couldn't stop thinking about in Capital City, that you didn't dare fall into battle. But you never spoke of me." Julian Shen said, "I wanted to earn merit and marry you. And I was afraid I wouldn't come back. And you'd worry." "My general." I hooked my arms around Julian Shen's neck, sighed softly and kissed him. "Vivi, you should sleep." "I'm not sleepy. I want to give you." Julian Shen breathed low and rough as he rolled over on top of me. "You know I can't take that. You know best how to get to me." Smiling, I whispered into his ear, "There's something you'll take even worse. Want to hear it?" "Say it." Julian Shen gritted his teeth. "What else can I not take?" "I want to have a child." Julian Shen's reason shattered completely. He cursed under his breath and pulled me down into a sea of desire. A year in Frontier City passed in the blink of an eye. That spring, I gave birth to a daughter. Julian Shen treasured her beyond words. He named her Aurora Shen. Her nickname was Annie. That same year, someone came from Capital City. The day Adrian Liu was pulled inside by Annie, I froze for a moment. Then I came to myself and quickly pulled Annie to my side. "Master, General Shen is still waiting." Theo Liu looked much more mature now. He stood behind Adrian Liu and reminded him respectfully. Adrian Liu looked at me for a while, said nothing, then turned and left. In this life, he had already become Prime Minister, a full year earlier than before. Magnus Tai had also died in battle months ago, 1 year earlier than before. Neither of them would yield. Annie couldn't understand. Who was that uncle? Not a good person. I coaxed her to nap. Don't mind him. A hand rested lightly on my shoulder. Julian Shen had returned at some point. When he looked at Annie, his eyes were filled with tenderness that wouldn't fade. He motioned for me to speak elsewhere. Seeing Annie asleep, I quietly set her down and stepped outside. Supplies are all resolved. What is Adrian Liu trying to do this time? I kept my head down while Julian Shen led me forward by the hand. Not sure. The Emperor ordered him to supervise the army. Magnus Tai is dead. His tribe is gathering forces to attack Frontier City. A hard battle is coming. Adrian Liu showing up at a time like this can't be good. In my past life, Julian Shen had fallen in that very battle. Julian Shen said, "I always felt my death in that battle was suspicious." "You mean a spy?" Julian Shen's expression was grim. "Someone tampered with the horses. They ran sluggishly." "Adrian Liu? Unlikely. He's mad, but he's not that vile." The next day, I ran into Adrian Liu at the gate. Annie bounced up and down and waved at him, wanting to go over. "Uncle Liu." Adrian Liu froze. He lifted a hand as if to pat her head. I stepped in front of him without making it obvious. "Young Master Liu." Adrian Liu's eyes went unfocused. After a long moment, he finally spoke. "Vivi, you look much better." "Master, it's time to eat." Theo Liu's face was cold. "You haven't eaten all day, you can't take it." Adrian Liu coughed lightly. "I didn't tell Theo to say that. I know. Go eat." I cut off his explanation. Adrian Liu looked at Annie one last time and took a red lacquered rattle drum from his sleeve. "It's something from Capital City. If she likes it, let her play." Annie grabbed it and smiled sweetly. "Thank you, uncle." Adrian Liu drifted again and Theo Liu pulled him away with a cold face. His back looked thinner than before. I looked down, put on a stern face and told Annie, "Next time, ask me before you take something." Annie asked innocently, "So can I take it?" I laughed in spite of myself. She was just like her father, act first, report later. Keep it. The enemy came quickly. One night, clusters of flaming arrows arced up over the city wall. The alarm reached the courtyard. Julian Shen was already dressed and ready. Before he left, I gripped him tightly, my heart clenched. "Be careful, wear thicker armor. Don't go up yourself." Julian Shen answered softly, then turned and kissed my forehead. "Vivi, wait for me to come back." As if afraid his resolve wasn't strong enough, I shook Annie awake and taught her, word by word, "Daddy, don't get hurt. Come back early. Annie will wait for you." Something flickered in Julian Shen's eyes. Then he turned and left. The battle wasn't as easy as I'd imagined. I waited in the courtyard for 3 days. No victory report. On the 5th day, the courtyard was sealed off. Theo Liu stood guard at the gate. I stayed with Annie and played with her as usual. On the 10th day, the city still hadn't fallen. The civilians hadn't been slaughtered. Theolu burst in and dropped to his knees in front of me, shaking. "Please, go see my master." Ethan was covered in blood, stabbed through the heart. Adrian Lu still held the knife hilt in his hand. Ethan's long sword had pierced through Adrian Lu's shoulder blade. Ethan was dead. Adrian Lu knelt there, motionless. Blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. Theolu's eyes were red. Master was wounded. He only came down from the battlefield last night. He found this traitor and executed him. Now the city is in chaos. Everyone says there was a traitor, that Frontier City will fall sooner or later. General Shen is still out there. Master, I'm afraid." He choked back sobs, forcing down grief. "Please, Miss Bai, take charge, steady the people. Don't let my master die for nothing. For nothing." By the end, he couldn't speak at all. "Where's the doctor?" The doctor said that with the sword still in, he can still cling to one breath. If it's pulled out, whether he can survive, no one knows. Master wants to talk to you. I walked over and knelt beside Adrian Lu. He opened his eyes slowly. "Vivi, look, in the last life I couldn't find them. I killed them both. This time, I found it." My heart tightened. Adrian Lu continued, "I didn't want to die, but if I didn't kill him, Julian Shen would die, and you would blame me." My eyes reddened before I could stop them. "I'm just mad, but I love you." Adrian Lu gripped the sword and slowly pulled it out. His body swayed. He pitched forward. I caught him, pressed down on the wound as blood gushed out, and shouted, "Get the doctor! Don't just stand there!" Adrian Lu smiled. "The master is dead. No one can go back anymore. Vivi, for me, I don't know if that's luck or misfortune." The light in his eyes vanished inch by inch. "2 lives of plotting, and still I couldn't have you. Vivi, you were my calamity. At least I didn't die in winter. I've forgotten how to cut window paper cuts, and you refused to teach me again." That day was chaos. People rushed to scatter powder on Adrian Lu's body to stop the bleeding. Only me, I held him and heard every word clearly. And somehow tears fell. "Why did it have to come to this?" I asked. He closed his eyes. His body grew colder, little by little. He never answered again. When they withdrew, I rose slowly, bracing myself on the doorframe. "Send the order. Our sons are still on the battlefield. The women, children, and elderly do not surrender. Do not withdraw. Do not retreat. As long as the city stands, supplies must be guaranteed. Anyone causing trouble in the city will be beaten to death without question. Those with merit will be rewarded after the war. Cut off Ethan's head and hang it on the city wall as a warning." That day, dozens were beaten to death in the city. I stood beneath the wall and listened to the sky-shaking cries of battle, unmoving. 3 days later, reinforcements arrived. A month after that, the enemy collapsed in total defeat. Our forces pushed 10 miles north and took another city. In the years that followed, taking 14 enemy prefectures became as easy as reaching into a bag. The day Julian Shen returned in triumph, the whole city cheered. He dismounted and pulled me into his arms. I stood there, stunned, and suddenly sobbed. Around us, civilians cried too. Some young men were already buried in the earth, sleeping forever. The cruelest thing in this world is war. The deepest regret is parting in life and death. I held Julian Shen's waist. His armor was riddled with holes, his body covered in wounds. "Julian Shen, we're home." That year, Prime Minister Adrian Lu was gravely wounded in the northern frontier. One morning, he boarded a carriage back to capital city. He said, "Whether I live depends on fate. There are things I haven't finished. I can't delay." Years later, our borders had already expanded north. Even the coldest places had officials and soldiers stationed there. The officials were all promoted by Adrian Lu himself, upright and incorruptible. He served as prime minister for many years, and the people lived in peace. Sometimes I remembered what Adrian Lu once told me. "I've suffered. I don't want others to fall into the same kind of misery. One day when I stand at the peak of power, I will take the well-being of all people as my duty." Passing through Frontier City, Theolu brought Adrian Lu's message. "Lu has lived 2 lives and has no shame before the people. I've only done one thing I can't face. Now that I can't win, I won't fight for it anymore." The next spring, Adrian Lu died. He was 38. That year, peach blossoms were in full bloom in Frontier City. Julian Shen held our 2 children, patted my head and said softly, "Vivi, if you want to cry, then cry." People are human because they have feelings. Holding me, he sat by the window and said quietly, he still wasn't ruthless enough. He locked your memories instead of erasing them completely. If he'd been more absolute, the one by your side today might not be me. There are no ifs. If in this life I chose to stay with him, then that person wouldn't have been the original me either. Julian Shen smiled faintly and looked up at the high treetops. The flowers are blooming brilliantly this year. The sunset pierced through the branches and fell on my wrist. The scar from long ago had already faded. I took Julian Shen's hand and said softly, "Let's take our time and look. We still have many years to see."